Welcome back to another episode of Light Beer, Dark Money. I'm Sean Noble.
And I am Chris Clements.
And it is Thursday. What's the date
We are
today?
back together,
October
just
10th.
the two of us.
Yeah.
Imagine
October
that.
10th.
So much to talk to.
Yeah,
about.
there is
so
a lot
much to get
talk
to.
about. Happy October. I mean, we've been October for 9 days.
It's
so-
you know what? It's going to get cooler.
Yeah, finally.
Today is going to be a record day
And
of
then it's
about
supposed to get
105,
cool
and then it's
on
going to be in the
Saturday?
90s next week,
Yeah. Oh man, I can't.
unless we
wait.
get punked again.
Well, Saturday down to 99. It says on the app here, but
Well, hey-
down 80s at the end of next week.
Hey, listen. In that vein, let's send prayers, Thanksgiving, shout out to our friends in Florida.
Oh,
We have a lot of family friends in Tampa who are doing well. They're fine.
Good.
But I mean, flippantly, I'm so blessed to live in Arizona. Like I will not complain about 110 degree heat or 115 degree heat or a haboob that just comes out of nowhere. It doesn't matter to me anymore.
Right.
Because
I mean,
I can't even imagine one hurricane living through that, which they do all the time. 2 hurricanes within 2 weeks, and there's a third one supposedly on the way.
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine that. We get lightning, we get some flooding, occasional haboob, 120 degree heat. I'm fine. Good.
It's a dry heat.
I'm fine.
You know what? I was thinking about. I was reading about how there's this massive national shortage of IV fluid.
Oh yeah, that is at the bags
Because
that are
they're
made in North Carolina.
North Carolina and Florida, the two big producers. They should move those to Arizona.
They should move those to Arizona. We have a perfect dry.
You don't want to go to
climate
California because it would. Well,
No, they
the
tax you into
environment's
oblivion.
And then there are earthquakes. But
Yes.
Arizona literally is the best place for that kind of thing.
Earthquakes
The
and power
stability.
outages.
And power outages.
which are increasing.
So, I think Arizona just needs to be the hub of all essential items that need to be available in a national emergency and protected from natural disasters.
That would be a great thing.
Let's just do
The issue is people really have a problem with the heat. It's really interesting.
But if you're in
That was the
Florida in July and it's 100 and it's
And
a 98% humidity, it
and
feels
you've
like
got-
115.
and you got bugs everywhere.
yeah, you got mosquitoes the size of birds.
I mean, last week the funniest videos that I was seeing were people coming home to homes in South Carolina and Georgia and Florida to alligators
alligators in their yard.
in their living room.
Oh, in the living room?
In the living room.
Oh my gosh, I hate reptiles.
I went to the University of South Florida with my wife Sasha for the first time, like right before we got married, and I was just fascinated. I'm like, how do you live? There's a moat over there, and there's alligator. I can see them from here. How do you go to class?
And they're freaking dinosaurs, man. I
Yeah.
mean, these are things that have lasted since the dinosaur age.
I mean, we deal with snakes here and stuff, and
Yeah, but
coyotes
you know what?
and bobcats.
I am
I guess-
definitely afraid of snakes, and I have to. Thank goodness I have, other than at the zoo, because my son is
Yeah.
enamored with snakes.
You go
every
there at
time I
6
go
in
to
the morning,
zoo-
right?
Yeah. This summer it was like, we must have gone 25 times, 6 a.m. And we walk in. The first thing he wants to do is go see the snakes. But I haven't seen a snake I haven't walked up on a snake
Yeah,
in years,
really.
which is, knock on wood, I don't want that to happen anytime soon.
So I mean, but if you walked up on like a king snake, you'd be fine, right?
No,
the
I
black
hate
and-
snakes.
and the-
I mean,
and
I
the
would
gold.
know. I would know that I'm not in mortal danger.
Yeah, they're
It would
great
still
snakes.
Stop my heart.
Yeah, we had one in our yard not too long ago, and I'm like, yes, good, go eat the rodents
Whatever.
until the dogs or the cats get you.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a blessing to live here in Arizona, and our thoughts and prayers go to everyone in Florida right now. Just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Did you see any of the video of Disneyland?
No.
Disneyland
World?
was built. Disney World, when it was built to withstand like 120 mile per hour winds.
Oh, really?
All of it.
Really?
And they've got all this infrastructure in place. They have their own water filtration system, their own pump system. They have everything. So today, like if the spirit moved you, you could go to Disney World.
Are they open today?
I don't think they're open today, but
No.
I mean,
But they're protected.
They're pretty well protected.
I mean, do you see Tropicana Field?
Yes,
The roof
with
was
the roof
ripped off.
You know, if that's the worst thing that happened, that
I'm
can
assuming
be,
that
that
there's
can be
other damage
repaired.
that's been
Yeah.
done But yeah,
The storm surge has been interesting to watch. Like 8 to 10 feet
Yeah.
waves coming through your living room.
yeah, you ought to avoid that.
You know, I can't even imagine.
So there was a U.S. Senate debate last night.
Speaking of waves, speaking of making waves,
Making waves. So Ruben Gallego and Carrie Lake squared off last night. If you are a Carrie Lake fan and diehard, you were cheering her on. She was being tough. If you were a Ruben Gallego fan, you were cheering him on. He was acting like an adult against the crazy woman. And if you're in the middle, I don't know that you had any. You definitely didn't
against
go,
the crazy woman. That's your assessment.
well, the way that they would say it.
Okay.
I'm speaking on behalf of a Gallego supporter.
Yes.
But you know, they both got some pretty good points in. The thing that I would say, and I said this last night, is Carrie Lake must not have watched the vice presidential debate because that was a debate that was substantive. They were treated each other with respect.
Yes.
J.D. Vance comported himself very well.
Yes. It was
Carrie-
good for the country.
Yes.
There was a
Carrie Lake.
general consensus on both sides of the aisle that it was absolutely good for the country.
Carrie Lake
regardless of your position.
put the Trump cloak on and came across as a bully.
Really.
Talked over Ruben, talked over the
I've
moderators.
just seen different clips.
Went overtime multiple times. Had to be. I mean, the moderators tried to be good moderators in the sense of you don't want the moderators to be what the story is.
Yeah.
In this case, they didn't control it enough. Which, if they had, it might have been looked better for Lake. But
And there lies the issue. And the issue for Lake, despite her pronouncements on our show last week that she's, almost even in the polling. Don't know what polling that she's looking at, but her own internals is what she was referencing.
she said it again today on the radio.
And a friend of mine reached out to me and goes, how do I assess what I saw last night? And I said, well, here's my take, having not watched the entire thing and just seeing clips and different sound bites. Carrie Lake has a likability problem, a massive likability problem. And it's in the middle, and it's with traditional conservative Republicans. The MAGA folks, the hardcore Trump folks, she can do no wrong. But that's not how elections are won, as you and I both know.
Right.
Elections are won by convincing the people who are non-committal and the people who wake up 2 weeks before an election and go, oh, wow, there's an election. Wonder who I should vote for.
Right.
That's how election, and convincing them that you're the right candidate for the values and you represent the values that they want to espouse.
Yeah.
Consistently being unlikable. Consistently being unlikable for that electorate is a problem.
It is.
And then there's the traditional conservatives who look at Carrie Lake and they feel that she has burnt every bridge that she can burn within the Arizona Republican Party, despite all her signs around town espousing her endorsements from, friends of ours like Doug Ducey and others.
Right.
Which I'm wondering, Sean, because you have endorsed Carrie
her,
Lake.
yep.
It's on her website. I saw it last week. And I'm wondering, are you going to be on a Carrie Lake sign?
No, but don't be silly.
Did you sign an agreement that says that she can use your name, image, and likeness? And is she paying you for that?
I'm not being paid for it, and she wouldn't use mine anyway.
Okay.
Because not enough people know me.
Yeah, but you went on KTAR, face for radio.
Yeah, I've got a face for radio. That's right. That's why we do a podcast.
That's why we do a podcast.
I don't even know why we videotape
We
this
do
thing.
videotape it because, we're vain in that regard.
That's right.
But seriously, I think that's her issue, and I don't think she's bridged that in this election. And that's sad.
she
I told my
didn't-
buddy, I go, Trump's going to win Arizona probably by 5 points.
You think it's going to be 5?
I think it's going to be 5.
Wow.
I do.
Wow. Okay.
I think that, and we'll get to the polling in a bit, but I think the polling is swinging strongly in his direction. We'll see what happens on election day, obviously, but she's still going to lose.
Yep.
Whether it's 5 points or 2 points or 1.5 or 1 point, she's still going to lose.
Yeah. So last night, you look at debates and there are, there's a reason for debates. That is to give people an idea of where you are and how you match up against your opponent. And the goal of a debate is to come out of it having gained votes. I think at
Addition.
best, at best, I don't even think she came out of it even. I think she lost votes last night. If you are not committed yet and you saw her, she didn't persuade you, and she may have lost some people because she just came across as mean and snarky, which, like I said, to her, I mean, she debated as if she was in a primary election.
But that's what happened during the governor's race, is that she kept running as if she was still in the primary.
Yeah.
And she kept tacking more and more right. I go back to that, that big rally 2 weeks before the election with Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon. This big, Turning Point thing. Turning Point has its place in the primaries and maybe within the grassroots. But when you're trying to project moderation and you're trying to, bring those middle ground voters and non-committals into your fold, that's not the image you want to be projecting.
Right.
Nothing against those guys, personally or politically, but they have their place within the base for a reason, and you run to your base during the primary.
Well, and the challenge is that she brought everything multiple times. She brought things back to the border, which I get. But guess what? The middle of the road voter, yes, the border is important, but they care more about the economy. And she didn't talk enough about that. And she didn't, she hit Gallego, and fair game, because he's been supportive of the Biden-Harris agenda, which has created all this massive inflation. So, yeah, he's got to own that.
How did he come across, did you think?
He came across
reasonable, or?
Yeah. I mean, she labeled him, this is the Ruben Gallego's extreme makeover, which, yeah, I mean, she leaned into it a little bit too much. I mean, I became a little bit repetitive. But yeah, he's changed. I mean, he's not an idiot.
No.
And guess what? She could learn from that.
No, he's not.
I mean, he's tacking to the middle. She should be tacking to the middle. And
he's trying very hard to tack to the middle.
And when I talked to Canada, I said, you don't have to abandon your principles to communicate with the people in the middle. It's not like you're moving your principles. You are saying, I'm not going to use this language. I'm going to use this language.
Yes.
And
exactly.
Communicate. It's, Reagan never lost any of his principles, but he absolutely knew how to talk to the middle.
Well, and he had an aspirational
Yes.
language that he used in every speech that made you feel proud to be American, regardless of your party or political persuasion.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, that was a tremendous skill. Not many people have that.
Well, and her biggest problem, I mean, and look, as someone who's endorsed her, someone who supports her candidacy now, I can still point out the flaws, and she's got a major flaw in that she's not authentic.
Yeah, that is a great point. That word, authenticity.
I mean, she just puts the Trump cloak on, and it's a play. She's play acting.
Yeah, and when she's play acting, she's putting on. She's acting. She's making a performance.
It's frustrating.
Rather than connecting with voters in an authentic way that makes them believe in you as a person.
Yeah.
And connect with you and your values, and it doesn't mean that they have to agree with you on every single issue. People just want to know that they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, and so they just want to know that you care about their issues, and that you're willing to listen. I heard a criticism of Kari Lake the other day that I passed on to you that I thought was really, really interesting. And it was on another podcast where they had a pollster on, and he called Kari the Stacey Abrams of Arizona, and that her defeat would be so dramatic and so unbelievable that the Arizona Republican Party could finally say goodbye to Kari Lake. It was, and this is on a very conservative podcast, where he was lifting up so many other Senate candidates around the country. We're seeing polling that is shifting in their favor,
Right.
in dramatic ways. Bernie Moreno in Pennsylvania, and
Hovde in Wisconsin.
Hovde in Wisconsin up 3 points.
Rogers in Michigan.
Yeah, Rogers in Michigan.
I mean,
and why is that happening? Why is that happening?
Well,
I'm
because
asking.
they're good candidates. They know how to
And?
talk to the middle,
Yes, yes.
and they're authentic.
Their messaging, their authenticity is shining through at the most important part of the election. Your polling a year and a half ago means nothing.
Yeah.
The most important month of the election, ladies and gentlemen, is October. It's game time.
It is so frustrating that states like Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, with incumbent Democrats. Well, I guess Wisconsin
Yeah.
is not. It's an open seat, right?
No, Tammy Baldwin, right?
I thought she was retiring.
No.
Am I wrong about that?
You're wrong about that.
Oh, it's Michigan. That's retiring.
Michigan.
So it's Alyssa Slotkin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but she's a long-term House member. So, yeah, I mean, it's Arizona should be.
Yeah. Any other candidate. I mean, even Kirsten Sinema, had she stayed in the race, would be winning.
You know, it would be fascinating to see where that would be right now. That would
Wouldn't
be
it?
fascinating. I wish we would have been able to see that.
In a three-way race,
A
I think
three-way
she'd
race.
be winning. I think she'd be over 40%.
Really?
She'd have the endorsement of the chambers. She would have a lot of
Yeah.
moderate Republicans and even conservatives
Well,
who don't want to vote for Kari.
because anybody that was any Republican that's supporting Gallego would have been a Sinema supporter,
Yes.
not a Gallego supporter.
Exactly.
Well, we'll never know.
Nope, we won't.
Our loss.
She's off to K Street or whatever she's going to do.
Whatever she's going to do. So yeah, the blue wall seems to be some cracks for both Harris and the Senate
Yes.
Democrats.
It's got everybody in a dither. Apparently.
the what is this? Quinnipiac or somebody? One of the polls this morning. Harris is slightly up in Pennsylvania, but Trump is leading in Michigan and Wisconsin.
There's been like an 8-point swing in Michigan, like a 6-point swing in Wisconsin. And it goes back to this idea that Kamala Harris is just a made up, bot of the machine. And the bot malfunctioned this week in a major way. You can only be brat for so long before somebody asks you a real question and you start to malfunction.
Yeah.
And on 60 Minutes and on The View, I think her head spun around a couple times, and maybe her arms fell off. I don't know.
The view is where the view was. What would you do different than
What
Joe
would you
Biden?
do differently than Joe Biden? She said, I can't think
of
of anything. Nothing comes to mind, is
that
what she
writes-
said.
that ad
and
writes itself.
I think it did. I think about 30 minutes later, there was an ad that popped up. And that is an unbelievable thing to watch.
I don't know how you can say that
You
you're
can't-
campaigning to turn the page, but there's nothing.
There's nothing to turn.
Yeah.
And then I have to, own up to something here on this podcast.
Oh, what's that?
I do. I was mistaken about
Whoa,
October.
you're admitting a mistake?
I am. I am. I admit mistakes a lot. I make a lot of them.
I make a lot of mistakes.
So we actually, didn't we predict the big red wave 2 years
We were
ago?
wrong.
That we were wrong. And everybody was wrong. So we had good
Except for
company.
Simon.
But
Rosenfeld.
a couple months ago, I predicted that Joe Biden, the big October surprise would be Joe Biden would resign. And I thought through the tea leaves, it looked like it was moving in that direction from the perspective of the Harris, I would say Barack Obama machine was moving hard in that direction. What I did not, consider was that Joe Biden still had a little bit of fight in him. I got a little bit of gumption back in me. And he has torpedoed his vice president this week in ways that I
That
wouldn't
is
have. I would not have
such a great
predicted.
point. That's such a great point.
I would not have ever predicted that.
She was on all the networks were carrying live her speech.
Her ridiculous.
I don't remember where she was, but then he decides that he's going to walk into the press room at the White House for the first time ever as president. For the first time ever as president. And all of the cable networks go to that. Completely undermines her campaign,
But it was all about
her message.
It was all about the hurricane this week.
Yeah.
And she's there. She's on the tarmac somewhere. She's blasting Ron DeSantis, who for the last 3 weeks has literally been in the storm surge.
doing
I mean,
a
if you
great
want to see
job.
real leadership, and I hope books are written about this, Ron DeSantis as a governor, he absolutely is the best governor in America. And he has proven it time and time again because of these crises and the way he manages things and the way he gets things done. He's like, don't rely on FEMA. They're not coming to save you. We are in charge. And she decides to lambaste him for not taking her phone call. And he's like, did she call? Really?
But he's been talking to Biden.
Well, he's like, she's never shown interest in what we do here for the last 3.5 years. And by the way, we've had quite a few hurricanes the last several years. And then Biden gets in front of the microphone and says, no, the governor of Florida, I've talked to him continuously, gave him my private cell phone, told him that he's you make sure he has everything he needs. If he doesn't have everything he needs, give me a call personally. Just cut her off at the knees.
Yep.
And then there's reports coming out after one of the briefings or something in the press. Oh, right after he said that the Harris people and the Biden people were going at each other in back of the press room,
Yeah.
like going at it, yelling at each other.
Yeah.
So there's trouble in paradise.
Trouble in paradise. Well, we'll have a lot to cover on that.
So,
next
ladies and
week.
gentlemen, I was wrong about the October surprise. The October surprise might be that Biden is torpedoing his vice president.
Joe Biden's
for
revenge.
for stabbing him in the back and trying to take him out. He's going to make sure that his legacy as someone who could have quote unquote defeated Donald Trump if Trump wins.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if Trump
That
beats
narrative
Kamala,
is
it
his
completely
narrative.
turns it upside down.
Yeah.
So the next episode after this one, we're going to be talking about some propositions,
Yes.
and so we're going to be a little bit closer to home. So we'll get back to more of the national stuff next week, but so look forward to that, the propositions, because there's a lot of wild stuff on the ballot.
There's a
this
lot
year.
of crazy stuff. That
And
people-
as I mentioned before, our friends at Americans for Prosperity Arizona
yes.
have a ballot initiative similar to the REINS Act for the state. That is, if you spend more than $500,000 on a regulatory issue, it has to get approval by the legislature. That's Prop 315.
Yes.
So encouraging people to vote yes on 315. And it reminds me of another regulatory issue that the AFP Arizona was a big part of. Remember the tamale bill?
Yes.
Where
Save the tamales or whatever it was.
yeah, that Katie Hobbs vetoed. There was a bill that allowed. So apparently, under the regulatory scheme of our Department of Health Services or whoever it is, they were shutting down these old Mexican ladies selling tamales.
Oh yeah.
And so
It's
the
kinda-
legislature said that's outrageous. We're going to fix that. AFP Arizona was a big.
And it was a
part of
pretty
that.
bipartisan
Yeah.
bill, wasn't it?
I mean, it's passed overwhelmingly, and Katie Hobbs vetoed it.
Yeah. If you make any type of food in your kitchen and you try to sell that food in any sort of manner, it becomes a public concern.
Which, I mean, that means
Okay.
that kids with lemonade stands.
Yeah. Shut down the lemonade stands.
So-
shut down the Sonoran hot dog, bacon wrapped hot dog
That's right.
stands
That's right.
outside of the stadiums. Just
Any
shut
of
them
that
down.
stuff. So, Americans
Maybe
for
that's a California thing, but
well, I mean,
they are around here
they're
too.
around here too. I had one at the fair. It wasn't as good as the one at Dodger Stadium, but
Oh my gosh, the ones outside the
or actually outside the
Coliseum,
Coliseum.
outside the
They're-
Coliseum, they're the best.
well, as good as the ones at the Rose Bowl.
It's probably the same people.
It
Who
might
knows?
Be. It might be. Anyway, Americans for Prosperity Arizona led the charge, got the tamale bill passed.
And we are
Finally
so
signed.
appreciative of their support as well.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yes, you are. So, anyway, on to the propositions next episode. And
Yeah.
until then,
I'm not going to make any more predictions.
don't make any more predictions, but keep the faith.
Yeah. God bless.
Thanks,
Thank you for
guys.
listening.